now. Okay, so let's go from the very beginning. This is what I have. This is what you've already heard. You. All right, right. What up, B? So let's check this shit out. As you can see, you had me fucking working, which is always a good thing. I'm not really good with too much in terms of like setting up and scheduling. That's just the way I am. Don't be like me in that sense. I saw the way you had it on your Pro Tools session. That's perfect, man. You actually had shit in order. I like keeping the track outs and out as trackouts. One, I have Apollo Twin UAD. I have my MacBook i7 processor, so I'm allowed to. I can do that shit. If you bounce it down to 2-track because your processor won't let you, then dude, I mean, you have to do what you have to do. Highly, I salute that shit always. Getting shit done the way you have to get it done. So first things first, let's mute out the verse. We're not gonna work on anything that has to do with the vocals, because I want to focus solely on the beat for right now. Okay, just because that was a big thing. Let's take out the sauce. All right, so let's get right into it. Boom, boom, boom. Actually, you know what? Because I'm gonna end up fucking up and going too far into it. I don't know if you know how to do this, but this is how you get rid of shit without really getting rid of it on your shit. So this just kind of, it just hides it for you so you don't have to see it constantly. Let's get the master back in here at least. Alright, cool. So alright, so we're gonna bypass everything that I had done. That way we hear it raw, and then we'll go through each thing I had added. Cool. That's more of the sound you're remembering.
Yeah.
No, we don't need that. Alright, gotcha. Ugh. That dirty bass right there was nice. Alright, so let's get into this. Alright. Here is your beat. I kind of renamed some of the things. Some of the stuff I really didn't need to because it's all it really was, right? So, first things we did in terms of your tag, I didn't like the way it kind of cut. So, here's my Pro EQ. This is my EQ. I just cut some of the little mid ends right here and a little bit of the high ends just so it wouldn't really bug too much. On this right here, your main guitar sound, I did 2 things on it. So the first thing I did was I cut some of the mids, the low mids, because it was clashing with your 808, both of them. So I kind of did that, and I raised up a little bit of the high end just to get a little bit more excitement. But the main thing I did was this thing right here, Ozone Stereo Imager. You can get a quick knockoff. It's just basically what it does. It allows your sound to spread out a little bit more. So what I did was this mid-low area right here, basically, I sterilized it and I gave it a little bit more air. A little bit more on the low end as well too, but then I cut out the highs and the lows, and I made those more compact because I didn't want them going into your basses. What that basically did was it gave your main melody, that like really intense melody, it gave it more air. It filled up more of the space because the drums on this type of track, these drums are really what's gonna fucking like drive the beat, especially because it's so aggressive. The verses are so aggressive, and anytime you're making something, you always mix to what you want to sound best, right? So the high lead right here, same thing. I cut out the low end, just kind of sculpting it out. It looked like you had already done it for the most part. I just kind of went a little overboard with it. Well, not overboard, I just went a little bit more into it, because right here I didn't need this extra air for no reason, you know, so I just, fuck that, we got rid of it. Okay, like your mix is pretty good, dude. A lot of it is just gain staging and then the final compressing and limiting on things. On the low end, the deep bass, I did mess with it a little bit just because the transition between this 808 and that 808 was a little bit too different for me. So I allowed this one to grow out a little bit more. I cut out a lot of the highs. Like I said, my main focus is the drums, the accent on that. So all I'm doing right now on a lot of the additional frequencies is, oh, this is a dope thing, low end boost. This thing was on your added 808. I just wanted to make it a little bit fatter. That's it. And I dropped down the volume just a little bit, just because that shit knocks. So yeah, so everything that I did with the melodies, the pads, was sculpting out an area for your drums to just snap. On the kick, I use a kick drum preset that I already have pre-tweaked off my SSL channel strip from UAD. If you ever in a market for an interface, highly recommend Apollo's or Arrow from Universal Audio, just because you're good. That and Waves, they really self-emulate each other. So I don't really mess a lot with Waves because I have UAD. So it kind of defeats the purpose for me. You know what I mean? Okay, so there's my kick drum. Made that shit snap a little bit. On your snare, I love the way you did your snares. Everything was pretty much there. All I really did was just add some reverb to your main snare, just to kind of help it spread out a little bit more. And on it, I raised up this right here, so it kind of goes from your left to your right. It's a small little trick. It's just what it does. It allows a little bit more depth. Now, once I got that done, I basically got the initial gain staging. The next step that I did was I moved all of the drums to their own bus right here. I again SSL, add a little bit of clarity, and then I added a limiter, very light limiter, just enough to make it cut. Okay, that's the reverb. Now, once I got the drums to where I wanted them and I got this decent sound, the next step is blending them together, the whole instrumental as a whole. So I got this Poltec, again, UAD, solid. This is more for the mids. I feel like the mids needed a little bit more warmth, so I kind of built that up. And then as a whole, I wanted to brighten it up, just because I went a little bit too ham on the EQing on this, on your effects. I threw a secondary EQ, brightness, and limiter. So this thing kind of does everything for you. So before and now, look at that. It lifted up the low end. It made the snare snap a lot more. And now we have our beat, your beat. Okay, so that is the first step. Now we don't need this no more, so we can get rid of that. And the reason why I'm doing this is because I don't want the computer to freeze on us while I'm opening up all the different plugins that I have set up on here. So the less waves that the bar is actually going through, the better. It's essentially like a 2-track type thing, you know what I mean? It allows the computer to not see as many things, kind of like when you move everything from your desktop to a folder inside your documents. It's something to help you out more. All right, so let's go with this. Vocals, that one was a bitch for the simple fact that you guys were doing something that I don't really mess with, which is the new screaming, like rap shit. So it was, I'm glad you kind of pushed that out me, cause yo, bro, like this shit was a fun. This one was fun to mix. First things first, let's go with the whispers.
Yeah.
You see that thing right there?
Yeah.
Right here.
Yeah.
So your whispers and your yeah-yeahs, they were on different frequencies completely. I could do one or two things. One, I could lower this down so they match. Okay? But that's not really helping anybody. So what I decided to do instead was run one of my EQs. This one I basically left alone. I didn't move it to a bus because I wanted it to stand on its own. I threw in a quick little reverb just to kind of air it out.
Yeah.
All right, but we still have that same issue. So this is when you want to use compressors. This is the Teletronics compressor for UAD. Again, it's a legacy, so this one comes with any of the interfaces. If you do decide to buy them, it'll be able to get this for you. Peak reduction. This is essentially your in, this is your out. So if I raise up the peak reduction, it allows them to kind of all meet at the same area. So
Yeah.
So it raises up the whisper and the yeah, so that they're not fighting each other. You see what I'm saying? So now the yeah and the yeah, they're both matching each other. We're not fighting with each other. So it makes it really, really easy for us. On your yelling, and that one has no EQs as of right now, no effects whatsoever, because I have everything bypassed. Now, the majority of your vocals, they all sound similar. There's a lot of little nuances that you were doing, but not so much that it really needed to make separate buses. And that's one of the things you're gonna start learning more and more and more is you can either make a lot of work for yourself or not. The recording that you guys did was very, very similar. It didn't really require a lot of separate buses unless I just wanted to go flashy, which has never been me and not something that I really highly recommend unless of course the artist or the sound you're looking for requires it. Now, because this is more of a should sound more like a straight mixtape type grimy shit, all I wanted to do was make sure that all the sounds kind of molded together, and then internally I added a different signature so that they would still stand out. So overall, on all of the vocals, I put them on this bus. This is my straight vocal bus. So the first thing I did was I threw EQ, of course.
Okay, watch that now. Think this shit don't count, yeah. Okay, watch that now.
Let's go ahead and loop this, that way we can hear it constantly changing.
Okay, watch that now. Think this shit don't count, yeah. Okay, watch that now. Think this shit don't count. Better recognize my flow.
Alright, now next thing I did was, of course, I threw that compressor, peak reduction, and the gain. Again, this is just because the artist was constantly yelling and coming down. I wanted to make sure that everything kind of started limiting itself. If you are in a process to buying a plug-in that'll work a little bit better than a compressor without having to over-compress the vocals, Vocal Writer by Waves, highly recommended. What it does, it creates an automation for your vocals so that they're on the same volume length. I like going with the compression because it reminds me of that New York gritty, grimy sound. So, again. Alright, so now kind of, there we at. Now again, I threw a secondary EQ. This EQ was more to tame the highs. That's why I dropped it down a little bit right here. Here are your highs. While still accenting it on certain frequencies and your mids, because that's where his pocket lived in terms of his vocal stature. So that added a little bit more clarity. And then, like I said, his vocals are crazy. I threw a third EQ And this is not something I normally do. And this is why I really like these mixing things. It's because I would never do all of this, and you probably won't find a tutorial where people are using three separate EQs, because it's such a specific sound that you guys are going for. You'll have to, in time, you're going to train your ear to hear what you need and hear what you don't need. All right, so this is the 30 Q. And what this one did, I just kind of cut out a little bit of the mids and the low end to, again, let the beat breathe and let them sit in each other's pocket without fighting with each other. Now we're at the verse, right? So now that we're at the verse, I wanted to have a different sound than what the hook was. So I did a subtle stereo enhancer, and what that does, it allows the verse to kind of sound bigger than it really is. And then I threw a separate compression just to fucking make it snap a little bit more. And that compression, ugh, in it. There's a secondary verse.
I'm lonely. What the fuck is this shit to a Kobe? Bitch, act like you owe me. Came to your delicious Nobis. If you nasty little bitch, come and show me. Want it, got it, that you won't rest, but this ain't Sonic.
There's one of your vocals right there. Let me see where this is at. Be bad.
Okay, watch that mouth. Sneak this in, don't count.
This one right there with the pads.
Okay, watch that mouth. Sneak this in, don't count. Okay, watch that mouth. Sneak this in, don't count.
So on this one right here, which I believe I ended up throwing a radio sound on it. Cut out the lows, cut out the highs, raise up the mids. You end up getting a radio sound out of it. Real simple. I threw a pan. So with Pro Tools and anyone else, you can always add automation. This essentially works as a phaser. A phaser will do the same thing, except I like having more hands-on, and I can see each one of these squares is a bar. So I can, again, like I said, I can manipulate it myself. So what that does, it'll again let that one, I believe it's the whisper, kind of going left to right, left to right, left to right. And again, boom, boom, boom. All right, now that we're there, I'm like, all right, cool. Your vocals are good. This is where I like them at. All right, they're all kind of meshing together. There's not a lot of things that I need to tweak at. There might be some automation on some of these. I believe I even cut it down a little bit. If not, I believe I recompressed them. And then again, like I said, this is why I like these tutorial videos, because for certain songs, you're gonna do shit you wouldn't normally do. After I did everything, what I ended up doing was I reran all the vocals through a separate isotope nectar. This is the same people who make Ozone. And I threw a compressor, a de-esser, because you have there's a lot of high S's and a lot of pops and stuff like that. Separate EQ where I cut a little bit of the low ends, and a limiter. The limiter again works like a compressor, just a little bit more drastic. I don't really mess with it too much. With this one, it seemed fitting. So let's go with your vocals. Without it, with it. So that is right there. This is essentially done. We're good with the sound. We're good with what's coming out now. Again, like what I did with the beat, I reran everything. Now this is including the beat, and you always kind of want to do this on the back end, because what it does, it's throwing a signature on each of the sounds all together to kind of glue it all together. Imagine like if you're cooking, this is going to be your melting pot. This is what it is. So I threw my master mix preset that I already have set up from other shit that, again, I tweak according to what the sound is like. So before, after. So what I'm really listening to are the kicks snapping, and can I still hear the vocals? Can I still hear the melody? can I still hear the melody?
Big tummy, down my heel like stand. Niggas stand like it's a maggot cat. No, I don't want your hoe, that pussy stink. Nigga, you can have a back. Ew. Back from the dead, I'm at your head. You ain't need no revenge. You didn't listen, you going upside. You need your relic, you tag. So tell me your problems, I'm laughing. I'm so sick of these niggas, I'm gagging. I'm 3 ways, you look like you lagging.
That line's so nasty.
Like some baggage. Okay, bust that map.
All right, man. And there we go, man. So, and like I said, this one was fun. This one was a bitch. I hope you got something out of this. There was a lot to go through. Honestly, I could have made 2 separate videos, one for the beat and one for the vocals. But I figured, shit, let's just do it all in one hit, right? And I mean, that's why we do it, right? For the music and for the fucking challenge that we're always doing shit. So, hope you liked it, man. I know you already heard the track and shit. After this, it's I believe I added overhead, so there shouldn't be too much craziness. So there should be enough overhead so that you can still send it to get it mixed. So yep, nothing's clicking. So you can still have it get mastered. And really what mastering is, what I'm talking about is someone will run it through their boards. I usually do that. I have a studio in the Bay Area, one in LA and one in San Diego, where I do that level of mastering. If you want analog mastering, if you want digital mastering, I can do that in my home, luckily. But that's after you bounce down the 2-track, you hear the album as a whole, and then you master the album all together so that each of the songs blend with each other without them sounding too chaotic and shit like that. But there we have it, man. Let me know how you like it. This has been the longest video I've ever done, 22 minutes or 20 minutes. So, yeah, bro. Holla.